The debate is over. What does an independent Scotland look like? The long-standing debate over whether Scotland should become an independent nation has dominated political discourse for over a decade. From the 2014 referendum to the post-Brexit landscape, the question of independence has been a polarizing issue across the country. But as the political and social landscape has evolved, it's clear that the question is no longer if Scotland should be independent, but how independence will take shape. With the momentum of pro-independence parties and the challenges of staying in the Union becoming more apparent, Scotland must now turn its focus to shaping what independence actually means for the future. This is no longer about slogans or abstract ideas, but about planning for a real, sustainable, and prosperous independent state. The time has come to shift the conversation from the why to the what an independent Scotland will look like, how it will function, and how we will navigate the complex transition ahead. What Scotland voted for by staying in the Union. For those who voted no in 2014, many may now be reflecting on the consequences of that decision. While there were many factors that motivated the no vote, including concerns over the economy, EU membership, and stability, the realities of staying in the Union have proven to be stark, particularly in light of Brexit and other UK-wide policies that do not align with the Scottish electorate's will. By remaining part of the United Kingdom, Scotland has continued to share control of its resources, oil, gas, renewables with the rest of the UK. Decisions about the use and management of these vital assets are still made in Westminster, limiting Scotland's ability to fully exploit its potential wealth. Likewise, political decision-making remains shaped by the UK government, with Scotland often finding itself at odds with policies such as Brexit, austerity measures, and public spending cuts. This creates frustration when policies are imposed that contradict the desires of Scottish voters, despite Scotland having its own parliament. Moreover, Scotland remains tethered to UK-wide economic policies, including taxation and trade agreements, which may not suit the needs of Scotland's economy. While devolution allows for some discretion over social policy, areas such as welfare and pensions are still heavily influenced by Westminster decisions, limiting Scotland's ability to tackle inequality and poverty independently. Perhaps the most glaring example of Scotland's lack of autonomy is Brexit. Despite voting overwhelmingly to remain in the European Union, Scotland was dragged out of the EU as part of the UK. The economic impact of Brexit has been significant, with new trade barriers, loss of EU funding, and restrictions on freedom of movement. Culturally, Scotland continues to share its identity within the framework of the United Kingdom. While there is pride in being Scottish, many feel that Scottish culture and values are diluted within the wider UK context. Scotland also remains part of the UK's defence policy, meaning decisions around military spending, foreign intervention, and nuclear weapons are all made in Westminster. Hosting the UK's Trident nuclear weapons at Faslane remains a controversial issue, with many Scots opposed to their presence on Scottish soil. In terms of immigration, Scotland's needs such as addressing population decline and attracting skilled workers are constrained by UK-wide policies, which tend to be more restrictive than Scotland would choose independently. This has created difficulties for sectors such as agriculture, health, and education, which rely on foreign talent. Scotland's green energy ambitions are similarly impacted by the UK government's decisions on environmental policy, making it harder to fully leverage the country's vast potential in renewable energy. And financially, Scotland remains reliant on the Barnett formula for funding, with little control over fiscal policy or borrowing powers. This dependency limits Scotland's ability to generate revenue and tailor public spending to meet local needs. A vision for independent Scotland. What now? Now that the debate on independence itself is essentially settled for many, the challenge is to define what independence should look like. Independence offers Scotland the opportunity to finally address the issues it faces as part of the Union, but success will depend on how the transition is managed and what kind of society we want to build. 1. Economic sovereignty. An independent Scotland would have full control over its economic policies. This means setting tax rates, negotiating trade deals, and determining public spending priorities based on Scotland's specific needs. With access to its own vast resources, particularly oil, gas, and renewables, an independent Scotland could create a green and sustainable economy while boosting key industries such as agriculture, tourism, and tech. 2. European integration. Rejoining the European Union or negotiating a bespoke agreement with the EU would be high on the agenda for an independent Scotland. Membership in the single market would open up access to trade and the free movement of people, addressing key issues such as labor shortages and economic isolation post-Brexit. 3. Social justice independence would allow Scotland to design its own social welfare policies, tackling poverty and inequality in ways that align with Scottish values. From housing to health care, Scotland could create a more progressive and inclusive society that reflects the will of its people.
4. Defence and foreign policy. Scotland would have the opportunity to redefine its defence policy, potentially choosing to remove nuclear weapons from its soil and focusing on peace building and international cooperation. Foreign policy would be determined based on Scottish interests, including aligning with global climate action and human rights initiatives. 5. Environmental leadership. With its abundant natural resources, Scotland could become a global leader in renewable energy, particularly in wind, hydro, and tidal power. Independence would allow Scotland to set more ambitious climate goals and implement environmental policies that prioritise sustainability and green jobs. 6. Immigration policy. An independent Scotland could implement a more open and welcoming immigration policy tailored to its needs. This would allow Scotland to attract the skilled workers it needs to grow its economy, address demographic challenges, and enhance diversity. 7. Cultural flourishing. With full control over cultural policy, Scotland could further develop and promote its rich heritage, language, and arts. Independence would allow for a stronger emphasis on Scottish identity, both at home and on the global stage. 8. Local empowerment. Independence could strengthen local governance, giving communities more control over decision-making through the expansion of community empowerment initiatives. This could lead to greater civic engagement and more responsive government. The road ahead, planning for the future. As we move beyond the question of independence itself, the challenge now lies in building the infrastructure, governance, and social policies that will underpin a successful independent Scotland. This will require detailed planning, transparent decision-making, and broad engagement with citizens, ensuring that Scotland's future is shaped by its people, for its people. The time has come for Scotland to seize the opportunity of independence, not as a leap into the unknown, but as a carefully constructed path towards self-determination, prosperity, and equality. The debate is over. Now, it's time to decide what the next chapter will look like.
This is the People's Assembly, a new kind of governing body, one that's actually representative of the people. We're using the best of Silicon Valley and the public sector to create a direct democracy, where the people have the final say. We're using technology to bring us closer to our representatives and give us a voice in the decisions that affect our lives. It's time for a change. The People's Assembly, where the people are in charge.